If you want a small boost in height to the back of your 2005 through 2023 Toyota Tacoma, this Teraflex Falcon 1¼ rear leaf spring lift block kit will be a great option to look into. Now this will be a good choice for the Tacoma owner who wants to add some height to the back of their truck for a number of different reasons, whether you want to even out the stance when you're towing, want to increase the ground clearance on the back and complement a lift on the front, or want to accommodate for heavy gear in the back. Now this kit will also be very affordable and simple if you want to keep it to the basics while finding a solution to whatever reason that you need that extra height in the back. Now this kit, as you can see, is going to be super straightforward and may not look like much, but is going to offer a good amount of benefits for your truck once this kit is installed. Now these blocks will sit under the spring and raise the rear end 1¼ inch, offsetting the weight that's in the bed or pulling it down to avoid that squatted look and improving your wheel and tire fitment in those situations, freeing up a little bit of room. Now like I mentioned, this will also complement any front level or lift that you pair with this, helping your overall ground clearance if you want to improve your rear end departure angles for any off-road endeavors while maintaining that factory-like ride quality. Now the blocks here are going to be made of a billet aluminum construction and will have a top coat on them to prevent any corrosion to the aluminum underneath. Now the blocks will measure out true to 1¼ inch and will come with an alignment pin in the kit and a pinhole on the spacer to ensure proper fitment when installing these on your truck. And the kit will also come with all of the required hardware, as you can see, including the longer U-bolts and nuts to accommodate for that additional height on the leaf spring. Now I do also want to note that in order to maintain full shock travel and performance and to not max out your factory shocks, it is recommended that you either add a shock extension bracket to your existing shocks or to upgrade to a longer shock, and you can find multiple options for both of those mods right here on our site. This kit is going to come in at about $175. Now, as I mentioned, this will be a much more affordable solution to rear end height and much easier to install compared to an add-a-leaf system or a full leaf spring replacement. Now, compared to other blocks, this will have a unique size at 1¼ inch, really dialing in your measurements if you know that you need a little more than an inch but don't want to go over the top with height in the back if you don't necessarily need it for your truck. Now install here will be a 2 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter. I would recommend a little bit of mechanical know-how in order to tackle this job, but if you have that in the right tools and setup, it should only take you about 2 hours or so to get the job done. However, at this point, we can head over to our shop and check out a detailed breakdown on how you can get this onto your Tacoma at home. So that's gonna wrap it up for my review. Let's go ahead and get into the install.
Tools required for this install include an impact gun, vice grips, 17mm wrench, 14mm ratcheting wrench, 17mm swivel socket, and 19 and 22mm sockets. What's up guys? Today we're installing some rear leaf spring lift blocks on our Tacoma. First we're going to watch a quick uninstall video showing you how to remove your factory suspension components, and then we'll meet you right back here for the install.
All right, now we're moving on to the rear uninstall. We have our truck in the air and supported with pole jacks. Now if you don't have a lift, you can use a jack and jack stands as well, as long as you're supporting that rear axle, so we can drop it down and install the shocks and rear lift blocks. First step, you're gonna grab a 17mm socket and wrench, and let's remove the bolt on the bottom of our shock. Now with your 17mm socket and 17mm wrench, go ahead and get this nut removed off your bolt. Now you can wiggle and remove this bolt out of the shock. All right, so now we're gonna get the top part of the shock unbolted. There's a nut up top here that attaches it to the threaded body. Now there is a slotted spot you can hold with a small wrench up top here, and then with a 14mm wrench remove this nut. However, I believe this gets in the way and we can't seem to get this nut off with a wrench up top here. So an alternative, not the best way to do it, but it'll definitely get the job done, is to hold this bottom part with a pair of vice grips. And with your 14mm wrench, go ahead and remove that. Now you can remove the nut up top as well as the bushing and the washer, and then remove the shock off of your truck. Now we're gonna remove the U-bolts off of our truck. Make sure your axle is supported so it doesn't drop down when we remove the nuts on the bottom of the U-bolts here. Grab a 19mm socket and let's get these removed. Now you can remove the bracket and set it aside, and remove both of the U-bolts over the top of your leaf spring. Make sure the bump stop stays on top of the leaf spring.
So now with our leaf spring separated from the axle, we can install our new lift block. Now we have this little dowel or locating pin, whatever you want to call it. That's going to slide into the hole. It's going to be completely flat on both sides. We're going to put this in until that pin lines up with this hole, and then it will drop down like that, and that'll give us room for the pin on the leaf spring. So just hold it nice and flush, slide it in, and then just move it around. And right there, it dropped into that hole to lock this into place. So now you just got to kind of manipulate your axle and your leaf spring to get that top pin to line up. I'm going to start raising my axle up. And I can just move everything around until it pops into place. And now our pin's in both holes, so we can get our new U-bolts installed, get our bottom bracket in, and our new washers and nuts. So now we can take our new U-bolts and drop them over our leaf spring. Now we have these little hooks on this hat here. You want to make sure that your U-bolt is sitting in there. When you put that lower bracket on, it might bump it out of place. So before you go and tighten everything down, just make sure they're within that notch. And then one thing to make sure of is that it's just behind your brake line and your sensor line here. And then we can hop underneath, put our bracket, nuts, and washers on. So now we can get this bracket back on. Now you might have to pinch your U-bolts together to get them to slide through the holes. And then just make sure those U-bolts are in those notches again. And then we'll go underneath, take your washer and your new nut and thread them on to all 4 studs. And then you can grab a 22mm socket. You want to tighten this bracket down evenly, so you're just going to go a little bit at a time, and you're just going to kind of go in an X pattern here. So I'm going to start here and then go diagonal, and then the one next to it, and then diagonal again, and then the one next to it, and just keep continuing that pattern. And then you can repeat that same thing on the other side. And now we can reinstall our shock. I'm gonna get this into the top mount first here and just get my nut started. And then I'll get that bolt in the bottom, and then we can tighten them both down. Now we can get our shock into the bottom mount. Now you might have to manipulate your axle or your shock a little bit to get your hole to line up. And then we can get that washer and nut on the other side. And then grab your 17mm wrench and socket and tighten that down. And now we can go back up top and take a 14mm ratcheting wrench to tighten down our nut. If we're lucky, we'll be able to fully tighten it down without the shaft spinning, but if it does start spinning, you can lower down your pole jack to put the full weight on the shock here, and then you should be able to tighten it the rest of the way up. And if that doesn't work, we'll get some vice grips on the top to hold it in place. Now that shaft's starting to spin, so I'm going to lower down my pole jack and then go back at it. And we're still spinning, so I'm going to put my wrench back on, get my vice grips on the stud at the top, and tighten it the rest of the way down. And then do that same thing on the other side. So that'll wrap up this review and install of the Teraflex 1 1/4 inch rear leaf spring lift block kit for your 2005 to 23 Tacoma. Thank you for watching, and for all things Tacoma, keep it right here at ExtremeTerrain.com.